All right, in this video, we are going to talk about text. We're going to talk about titles, boxes of text, and scrolling text. And so the first thing we want to talk about is where we are in the project. Okay, so we go back to our XD prototype. Remember, this is our roadmap, right? So here is the intro, and this is where we would put the video for our introduction, our title. And that goes to the main menu. We added graphics to page 1. And so now we're going to add graphics to page 2, page 2.1, and page 2.2. Okay, so that's kind of where we're at. And so we go back to animate. And so here we're at the intro, right? And here's our main menu. And if we were to click on our main menu on page 1, we would go to the graphics that we added. And if we clicked on the main menu to page 2, we would come to the page 2 with links to 2.1 and 2.2. And those would be here, 2.1 and 2.2. Okay, so that's kind of the overview of where we're at. So page 2, let's just briefly go back to the title aspect of things. And so if you click the title, you've got some options here. Okay, so the first thing we have is static text. We have dynamic text, and we have input text. And that would be like on a form or something like that. We're not going to deal with that. So we're just going to deal with static text right now. The static text doesn't do anything. It's just, it's just going to be text. So if we are adding a title, as we showed before, you'd enter a text box. You'd figure out what typeface you wanted to use, and then you would see how much size you wanted to use. So say we wanted to make it bigger, right? And so we just typed in, say, page 2. Okay, that would be our title. Okay, so that's title text. And I'll delete that here. And then remember that in order to put things in the right place, we always want to select the right layer, the keyframe that we're at, which would be here. And what we're going to do is we're going to add a box of text and then turn that into body text. Okay, so again, we click our text tool. And you draw the body text box out about as big as you want. Okay, and that's adjustable. And of course, body text at 82 point, which is what we see right here, is going to be really big, right? So we're going to bring that down to something like, I don't know, let's bring it down to 24 point, because this is a screen display. Okay, and we can move this box by just simply clicking on it and then waiting for, what the hell? Why can't I move it? Well, let me add some text to this. Okay, so you can either start typing in it. So you can either start typing in it, right? And you can select it and delete it if you want, or you can go to a document that has text in it. In this case, I'm going to just grab a paragraph. I'm going to grab a paragraph, and I'm going to copy that. I'm going to go back to animate, and I'm going to paste that. So it remembers the size of the... Fuck, why isn't this moving? Oh, never mind, I know why. And you would move it using the arrow or the transform tool. Transform tool, you can just move it around. That's probably the easiest way of moving it, using the transform tool here. Okay, and if you wanted to edit this text, simply double click on it. And you can change the width, and you can change the length by adding more text, so it'll gradually add more, right? And it'll just grow to the size of the box. Okay, so that's something that, it's always editable. So I'm going to undo that. And then say I wanted to move it over somewhere, I use my transform tool, grab the middle of the box, and move it to the right or to the left. As well, you have the normal paragraph tools, and those would be flush left, center, flush right, and justified. Okay. So those are the main tools that we'll use for the text box. Okay, so there's a static text box. So now what we want to do is we want to go, say we clicked on our page 2.1 button, and we go to page 2.1, and then what we do is we add another text box, but this time we change its status to dynamic text. Okay, that's really important, and have it be multi-line down here. You have a single line, and you have a multi-line no wrap, and a multi-line just standard. Okay, so we'll just use the standard multi-line text box, and you drag the text box about to the size that you would like. Now, the important thing to know here is that you have to have more text than the text box can handle, or scrolling text won't work. Okay, so that's an important concept. So once we have our text box, we go into the Windows menu and we open up Components. Okay, so that pops up somewhere, and I'm going to just drag this box. Now, you see over here on the right, I've got a bunch of tools, a bunch of windows, and I have these over on the side because that way I don't always have to go to the window, pick the thing, whatever I wanted. So in case you wanted to, add a window to this toolbar, you simply grab the window, drag it over until it turns blue and the whole box turns blue, and then let go, and then you'll see it there. Okay, so as it is, I've already got, I'm going to close that window right there because I already have it here. Oh no, I don't. Those are the parameters. Never mind. And then when you want to close it, you simply click on the box. Okay, so I'm going to go back to Window. I'm going to grab my components, and then it remembered that I had it in there, so I can close it or open it. Okay, so now in the components, I want to use the user interface. This may be closed, that may be closed when you open it up. So you flip this open, user interface, and at the very bottom of that option, you'll find the UI scroller. Okay, so what you do is you grab the UI scroller from the components window and just drag it out onto the station, drag it to where you want the scroller to be. You can put it on the top, you can put it on the left, the bottom, or the right, and we're going to put it on the right. So wait for that little plus sign and then let go, and then you'll see the little scroll bar, and the text box turns sort of transparent. Okay, now it won't work till we test the movie, so we will never know that until we test. Okay, so now we want to go back to our document that has our text in it, and I'm going to grab a whole bunch of text because I want to have this scroller work. Like I said, if I only grabbed a paragraph and it didn't fit the box, and it fit inside the box, then it wouldn't matter. Okay, so then we go back to animate, and we click in the box and we paste. It always goes to the bottom. Okay, so if you wanted to go to the top of the text to edit it or do something like that, you'd have to use your arrow keys to go to the top. And here you might want to say, you might want to add a space, for example, and then scroller doesn't work, got to use the arrow keys. So then we go down a little bit further and then say we want to put a space in there. So we put a return, we put another return in there, and then we use our arrow keys and we scroll down a little bit further, and then we put another return in there. So basically, aside from adding spaces and stuff, there's not a lot of formatting you could do in these text boxes. So about the only thing you can do is select all the text, and you might change the typeface to something a little bit more text-like. And if you want, and ideally what you want to do is you might want to go up, and it'll remember where you have started your cursor. So like I said, it jumps to the bottom. So if you want it to be at the top to read your text when you start your project, you'll want to scroll your cursor up to the very top of the text. Okay, so then I might also want to make that flush left. That changes it a little bit. See how it always jumps to the bottom? So the other thing to remember is that typefaces reside on the computer. And so if you want your project to work on all computers, you'll want to embed the text. And then when you embed it, what it's doing is it's putting that typeface into the program itself, and that way when you launch your project it will have the typeface in it. Otherwise, if you don't do that, it will default to the default text, which will really muck up your typography. Okay, so then what you want to do is you want to decide how much you want to put in there. So you'll see all characters, which is a lot of characters, right? That's all these different languages, which we really don't want. And in order to keep our project manageable, you want to always try and remember to, keep things as small as possible, right? So we're going to select the uppercase, we're going to select the lowercase, we're going to select the numerals, we're going to select the punctuation, and that's all you're going to select because you don't need all this stuff, right? And that way that typeface will now be part of the project. Okay, then you say okay to that, and you might even name it the name of the typeface, which is Kohinoor, or you could just leave it font 1. It'll go font 1, font 2, font 3, whatever. Okay, so I'm going to just say okay to that, and so now that typeface is now embedded. It is also, as you notice, it is in the text box, and so I screwed up. See what I did? What did I do? Bad job, right? I put it in the actions layer. Really a bad idea, right? So you'll select, if you happen to do that, and this happens a lot, so don't get all frustrated. Just be aware of it. If you make the mistake, you select it, you cut it, you go down to the text layer, and you right click and you say paste in place. Okay, and then it drops it into the text layer in the correct page. Okay, so that's how this works. So now in order to actually see if it's going to work or not, we need to test the movie. So there's two ways to test the movie. Up here in the upper right corner, you can click on that little play button right there. Or if you're just hanging around, you can hit Command Return, and that will open the project. Okay, so now we test it. We go to our main menu, we go to page 2, there's our box of text, there's our headline, and we go to page 2.1, and there's our scrolling text. Okay, so that's text.